Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Texas History for Kids. This is episode 45. I'm your host, Michelle Gallegos. Today we are going to move on to another part of our Halloween series. We are talking about the Menger Hotel. We are traveling back in time to the early years of the 1850s in San Antonio, Texas. And back then, there were more wagons than cars, and the city was just beginning to grow. A German immigrant named William Menger met his soon-to-be wife while working for her as a handyman in a boarding house that she owned. But later, after they were married, he had a big idea. He opened up a brewery, which, fun fact, was the very first brewery ever in Texas. But William wanted more than to just make alcohol. He wanted to open a hotel. So, with the help of his wife Mary and a very talented architect named John M. Fries, the Menger Hotel was born. And guess what? It was located right next to the famous battlegrounds of the Alamo. So by January of 1859, the Menger Hotel quickly became the place to stay in San Antonio. William Menger passed away at the hotel in March of 1871 of a horse and buggy accident. But after that, his wife, Mary, and their son soon took over running the hotel. Once the Civil War and Reconstruction era ended, and especially when the railroad arrived in 1877, the Menger Hotel became the most famous in the southwest part of the United States. People loved it, especially for its delicious food that was served in the colonial dining room. Under Mary Menger's management, say that 3 times, the hotel served all kinds of food, including venison, wild turkey, quail, bear meat, and buffalo, along with chicken, fish, ducks, and even turtle. They kept the meat fresh in a cool underground storage because refrigerators were not a thing back then. Mary handled most of the kitchen shopping herself. Usually, she paid cash to buy what she needed. She got lots of fruit and vegetables from German farmers in Texas who also grew different types of produce and provided dairy products. So these farmers helped to provide a wide variety of fresh ingredients for the hotel's meals. Some of the special dishes included delicious mango ice cream and a unique soup made from turtles that were caught right in the nearby San Antonio River that ran through the city. It wasn't just a place for travelers passing through, though. The hotel had visitors from all over the world, including famous people. One of the coolest stories involves President Theodore Roosevelt. Yep, the Teddy Roosevelt. He stayed at the Menger in 1898 while he was recruiting for his Rough Riders, which was a group of soldiers who fought in the Spanish-American War. But the Menger wasn't just a luxury spot. It was also an important place in history. During the Civil War, it was turned into a hospital for wounded soldiers. This hotel has seen a lot of history pass through its doors. And now, it's a part of Texas history forever. Today, the Menger Hotel still stands proudly right next to the Alamo, welcoming guests from all over the country. But not all of those guests are alive. That's right. What's a historic hotel without a few ghost stories, right? And as promised, during the entire month of October, I'll be throwing in some scary history, all based on real events. So whether you believe it or you're just here for the history, I'm sure you'll be intrigued by today's episode. As I said, the Menger Hotel just isn't for the past. It's famous for its hauntings, too. It's said to be one of the most haunted hotels in all of America, with over 30 different ghosts reported. Now let's start with one of the most famous spirits, the original owner of the hotel, William Menger, who is said to hang around during the early morning hours raising his glass to toast the living hotel guests. One man claims he sat next to him as he attempted to toast towards his direction. Then he said he quickly disappeared. He's also been seen and heard around the grand piano, the keys moving on their own. Sally White was another famous ghost. Sally was a chambermaid, which is a housekeeper, at the hotel during the late 1800s. Now, legend says she lived in the area called Blum Valley near the San Antonio River, which is not too far from the Menger Hotel. One night, she got into an argument with her very abusive husband. He was so upset with her that he shot her. And as she ran out of their house towards the Menger Hotel, holding her wounds, but trying desperately to get away, her cries must have been heard around the town. But she wasn't fast enough, and his bullets caught up to her. She was shot 2 more times. Sally finally made it to the Menger Hotel, and Mary Menger tended to her wounds for 2 days. However, medical care during those days was limited to stopping the bleeding, pouring whiskey or alcohol on the wound to keep it clean, and, if possible, finally removing the bullet. She probably didn't receive anything that would help her with pain, or more seriously, infection. Even though Mary Menger tried her best to keep Sally alive, she later died in the hotel. Historical records show that Mary paid for the cost of her funeral. Today, people report seeing a ghostly figure that matches Sally's description, still wandering the halls, carrying fresh towels for her guests. But don't worry, Sally's ghost is said to be friendly, just doing her job, even all these years later. Another spooky guest is Captain Richard King, a cattleman who owned the famous King Ranch, often stayed at the Menger Hotel, but it is said he has never left completely. Hello, all you history buffs out there. I'm Michelle Gallegos, a former educator turned podcaster. Are you passionate about learning stories of Texas history that you don't exactly get to learn in school? Sure, you've heard about native tribes, a few famous battles, and historical figures like Stephen F. Austin. All topics that every Texas student should learn about. But what if I could offer you even more? Imagine not only listening to this podcast, but also having access to reading materials that accompany each episode, making it easier to dive into the topics that interest you most. I think you'll love what I have to offer. Alongside each podcast episode, I've created detailed digital reading resources and comprehension activities designed to deepen your understanding and enhance your knowledge. These materials are perfect for students who are eager to explore topics further, and for teachers looking for ready-to-use activities in the classroom for resources. You'll find true, factual stories about Texas history, complete with suggested activity questions that bring classroom discussions to life. Dive deeper into our episodes by visiting michelleauthor.com and get access to engaging material, fun activities, and captivating historical stories. Let's make education enjoyable and impactful together. Now, Captain King stayed at the hotel so many times that he even had his own private suite. So one of the reasons maybe his ghost stays around is Captain King passed away at the hotel in 1885. But some guests have claimed to see him sitting quietly in the lobby, wearing his signature black hat. Others have said the doors to his suite swing wide open and even close. And doors have even mysteriously appeared before them when they weren't there before. Now, Captain King doesn't bother anyone. He's just there, like he's checking in after all this time. Teddy Roosevelt's spirit is said to be heard around, recruiting brave souls to join his famous Rough Riders. He was known for his loud, booming voice that traveled across the room. Room 217 is one of the most famous rooms in the hotel, which seems to be haunted by a former housekeeper named Mabel. One time, a tired traveler forgot to ask for a wake-up call. She mumbled under her breath as she walked to her room. When she arrived, the hotel phone rang, and it was the housekeeper who asked if she needed a wake-up call. The tired traveler was relieved, but probably a bit intrigued. How did the housekeeper know that she had forgotten to ask for a wake-up call? That next morning, she asked the staff to thank Mabel for reminding her. She learned that Mabel wasn't working that day, and she hadn't been at work for decades because she was dead. The spookiest part is that Mabel had passed away in the very room the traveler was staying in, room 217. Mabel had worked for the Menger Hotel and was one of the most helpful employees who often paid close attention to the needs of their guests. Obviously, she continued to serve even after she had passed away. But the hauntings don't stop there. Some guests say they've heard whispers in the empty rooms. Doors creaking open by themselves, and cold spots that send a chill down your spine. It's all part of the eerie charm of the Menger Hotel. The Menger Hotel was built right next to one of the most famous landmarks in Texas, the Alamo. In fact, it's so close that parts of the hotel stand on what was actually once the battlefield of the Alamo. This connection to such an important historical event is one of the reasons why the Menger Hotel has such a strong reputation for ghostly activity. During the Battle of the Alamo in 1836, hundreds of soldiers fought and died on that very ground, which makes the location incredibly significant. Many people believe that because of the tragic and intense events that happened there, some of the spirits from the battle may still linger around. It's said that the energy of such a historic event, combined with the hotel's long history, creates the perfect environment for ghostly activity. Visitors often report seeing ghostly figures dressed in old-fashioned military uniforms, possibly soldiers from the Alamo who never really left. Now, this connection to the battle, along with the hotel's rich history, adds to the Menger's spooky reputation, making it one of the most haunted places in the United States. So why does the Menger have so many ghost stories? Well, some believe that places with a lot of history tend to hold onto energy of the past. Remember, the Menger Hotel was once a hospital during the Civil War, and so many people lived, worked, and even died there over the years. All of that history may have left behind some spiritual footprints. But don't worry, even with all the ghostly sightings, the Menger is still a beautiful hotel, and most people who visit don't really see anything out of the ordinary, unless you're out there looking for it. Today you can still stay at the Menger Hotel, and it's like stepping back in time. The hotel has been restored to keep its old charm, with its grand lobby, fancy chandeliers, and antique furniture. And if you're brave enough, you can even request to stay in one of these haunted rooms. Whether you're interested in history or hoping to catch a glimpse of somebody spooky, the Menger Hotel is a must-visit in San Antonio. Just remember to say hi to Sally White if you ever see her in the hallway. So that's it for today's episode of Texas History for Kids. I hope you had fun exploring the history and the hauntings of the Menger Hotel with me. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and check out more stories about Texas history and its legends. Listen for upcoming spooky stories for Texas history. Until next time, remember, history isn't just in the past, it is all around us. If you have some questions, I'd love to hear from you. michellegallegos.author@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and remember, yesterday is today's history.